Okay, so getting back into our coverage over the X-Men, we do pick up with issue number 28. Now, here's the thing. This issue is all about the whole idea of Sabretooth now being at the school of Charles Xavier. Now, technically, Sabretooth is not really an X-Men. Matter of fact, he's there for a therapy session. Because remember, when it comes to Sabretooth, this man has gone through a lot in his entire life. And so a lot of times he remembers all the bad things that happened to him in his past. Now, he also had a character known as Birdie, who was a psychic who was able to go into his mind to kind of help him ease the pain in his mind by sometimes putting blockers on those bad memories. But Birdie died a while back. And so for Sabretooth, all those bad things that happened to him, it just keeps replaying in his mind over and over again, making him go crazy. And so for Charles Xavier, his goal is to have to pick up where Birdie left off at. It's really more of, let's try to heal your mind completely. Because the problem was you were trying to forget those things. You need those things to be remembered as a way to help you become a better person. And so right now for Sabretooth, he's locked away in the danger room so that Charles and other psychics are able to give him therapy sessions to hopefully help heal his mind once and for all. But the problem is, with him being there, it kind of affects the other members of the school. Like, for example, Jubilee. For Jubilee, she knows especially that when it comes to Wolverine and Sabretooth, there is a lot of bad blood between those two characters. And so with him being there, she begins to have nightmares. Like, for example, it's Sabretooth. He broke out of his prison. He went after Scott, killed Scott Summers, killed Jean Grey, killed off Wolverine, killing off every other member of the X-Men. She's the last person standing. Unfortunately, by the end of her nightmare, she's also killed off just like that. And so it kind of shows that with him being there, it's affecting everyone at that school. Jubilee is having nightmares because now she's afraid of the possibility that she could die by the hands of this monster. So with her freaking out, she wakes up screaming. Jean Grey runs into the room, and Jean Grey knows what the problem is all about. The whole idea of Sabretooth being at the school. And so you have Jean Grey being that big sister or that mother figure for Jubilee, being able to kind of ease the pain that she's going through. But at the same time for Jean Grey, she also hates the idea of Sabretooth being there. Now, there is a special reason why him being there really bothers Jean Grey. And I'll explain why here at the very end of this video. But for right now, it's Jean Grey saying, I need a meeting with some of the older members of the X-Men, like Storm, Beast, and also Cyclops. And so once you have everyone come together for this meeting, of course, they are talking about Sabretooth being there, being an actual problem. Because again, it does affect every single person at that school in some kind of way. But you didn't have Jean Grey bring up the fact that she does not understand why Charles believes that they can turn Sabretooth around. And here's the reason why. Because for her, Sabretooth is a killer. He's a grown man who knows what he's doing with his powers, going out of his way to kill people. Now, before you have that part get brought up, you have someone say, well, here's the thing. Rogue was also evil. Gambit was a thief. And also Wolverine was also rough around the edges, but Charles took them in, and look at them now. They are great X-Men to have by our side. So what if we are able to turn Sabretooth around? But like I said, he is a grown man who definitely knew what he was doing. Wolverine killed, but at the same time, not as much as Sabretooth or have fun doing it. And for Rogue, she was just evil, not really killing people. Gambit was just a thief. This man right here is a cold-blood killer. Now, at the same time for Cyclops, it's more of like, well, we have to understand that again, for Sabretooth, this man has gone through a lot in his life. So most likely he's having a hard time being the man he should be. And so you have some folks on the side of Charles Xavier, but you have some folks on the side of Jean Grey. Now, we also get reminded of the whole Psylocke and Kwannon thing. And guys, I know most of you guys know the whole idea of these two characters, but just in case we do have somebody joining us in our coverage over the X-Men, I kind of got to sit down and explain the whole idea of Psylocke and Kwannon. So when it came to Marvel Comics in the 1980s, they introduced a character known as Psylocke to the X-Men. Now, it was not really her first appearance, but when she did appear in the X-Men books, it was in the middle of the Mutant Massacre. Now, after the massacre, she did join the X-Men. And matter of fact, there was a point where she became team leader of the team. Now, when she was team leader, she had decided to use the Siege Perilous as a way to save the lives of the X-Men. Now, here's the problem. The Siege Perilous has the ability to give you a new life somewhere else around the world, but there is a catch. You may or may not remember anything from your past life. Now, for Psylocke, as she went through the Siege Perilous, we lost her for a good amount of pages, well, really books, actually. And so we had no idea where she went to. But when she did reappear, she was now in the body of a Japanese woman. At first, she was a British woman who's now in the body of a Japanese woman. Now, after a while, we did learn that it was the Hand who had technically had a hand in the reason why she was in the body of a Japanese woman. But then after a while, you did have the return of the British version of Betsy Braddock appear. And then we learned that there was another woman out there known as Kwannon who had her mind messed with as well. Now, you would think like, okay, that just means that their minds were just possibly switched into each other's bodies. But no, what actually happened was when it came to Betsy Braddock and also Kwannon, their minds were put in both of the bodies of the British woman and the Japanese woman as well. So, for example, in the body of the Japanese woman, she has half the mind of Kwannon and half the mind of Betsy Braddock as well. The same thing goes for the British woman as well. She has half the minds of both of the ladies. Now, we have learned that the British woman of Betsy Braddock and also Kwannon got the legacy virus. Now, as you all know, the legacy virus is a big deal right now because it was created by strife that is slowly killing off the mutant race left and right. And there is no cure at the moment. So we're kind of left to believe that very soon the British version of Betsy Braddock is going to die by the hands of the legacy virus. Now, we finally jump over to Sabertooth. Now, he's locked away inside the danger room, but we do see here that you have Moira McTaggart call out Charles Xavier. And the reason why, because, well, it's time to give Sabertooth his medicine. And what she means by that statement is more of like, hey, we need you to come in here and go into his mind to help ease the pain in his mind to calm him down, because it has been a while and now he has gone crazy again inside the danger room. He's tearing up the place. Now, for Charles Xavier, because he was so busy with Betsy Braddock, the British one, they sent in Psylocke, the Japanese version of Betsy Braddock, into the danger room to kind of help give his medicine because she's also a psychic. Now, when it comes to Betsy Braddock, or really Psylocke here, the Japanese Psylocke, the problem for her is that to be able to access the mind of somebody, she has to use her psychic blade to get into the mind of people. She has to touch their mind with the blade. But the problem is Sabertooth is just too fast for her, too strong for her. But also it's kind of like, you can't help me because you're kind of like me. Your mind is broken. Again, a callback to the whole idea of she has half the mind of Betsy Braddock and half the mind of Kwannon in her body. But either way, you have Sabertooth being able to take down Psylocke and throw her out of the danger room. And he says, I want the redhead. I want Jean Grey here and now. Now, there is a special reason why he wants Jean Grey, but again, I'm going to save that for the end of this video. But after that, we do learn that Rogue and Gambit are going inside to give Sabertooth his next meal. Now, this conversation is really important for so many reasons. And the reason why, because, okay, when you have Rogue and Gambit go inside, you have Sabretooth begin to talk in a way where it's all like, hey, Rogue, I want to tell you right now, you don't know everything about your man. That in reality, this man has been lying to you about so many different things. And you should know that he should go ahead and tell you how him and I know each other, but also the other secrets that he's currently hiding from you. And for Gambit, it's really him trying to make sure that Sabretooth does not really say anything at all that could really expose Gambit. Now, this leads into a whole huge thing for the character of Gambit down the road when it comes to our coverage over the X-Men. Now, there is a second thing why this conversation is so important, because you didn't have Sabretooth say, hey, Rogue, so you are the adoptive daughter to Mystique, right? Okay, cool, listen. Did you know that you have a brother? Now, you would think like, okay, you know what? The whole idea of Mystique and also Sabretooth having a love child together could be that brother that he is talking about. But it does kind of hint that, you know, there is a third child of Mystique out there. And this leads into the whole idea of Rogue finding out that Nightcrawler is the son of Mystique. Now, you do have Jean Grey and Cyclops go out of their way to confront Charles Xavier. Now, when they do, it's really more of Jean Grey kind of questioning Charles Xavier, or the whole decision of allowing Sabretooth to stay at the school. For Cyclops, he's more support for now, but at the end of the section, he kind of realized what is going on when it comes to Jean Grey. But for Jean Grey, she says, Charles, I feel like the only reason why you allow this man to stay at our school because you feel bad what happened with Magneto. And honestly, you could say that, because for Charles Xavier, he always felt like he could have been there to help out Magneto, to bring Magneto back to the side of good again, but he failed, and he had no choice but to use his powers to shut down the mind of Magneto. And so because of that, is Jean Grey saying, because what happened to him, you're trying your best to kind of undo your mistakes or kind of rebalance yourself by trying to help out Sabretooth. Now for Charles, he says, I understand why you believe that, but let me tell you right now, me helping out Sabretooth, it still ties into my beliefs. The whole idea of mutants and humans being able to live together in harmony, but at the same time, still helping out mutants who are in need, like Sabretooth. Now for Cyclops, he kind of realized what's really happening here. For Jean Grey, yes, she hates the idea of him being there, Sabretooth, but she also realized with him being there, it also kind of goes at Wolverine in a way, because as we all know, Wolverine and, well, Sabretooth, they got some bad blood between each other. But at the same time, it's Cyclops knowing and acknowledging that when it comes to Jean Grey, she has hard feelings for Wolverine. And so with Sabretooth being there, it's kind of like a spit in the face towards the other man she loves, Wolverine. And so you have Jean Grey go out of her way to confront Sabretooth. Now, when she does, guys, Jean Grey makes a statement. Now, before we dive into her actual statement, I want to jump over to, well, Sabretooth, because the reason why he wanted Jean Grey is all because she is another person that Logan was in love with. Somebody that he can go after and possibly kill. That's why he wanted Jean Grey, to get something at Wolverine, or use someone else to get to Wolverine, sorry. But for Jean Grey, she's kind of like, no, I came here to also make a statement as well. Because she says, I realize why you hated Logan so much. Because he's the man you always wanted to be. But unfortunately, you can't become the man like that because the way you are. Because you are unable to deal with your mistakes, to deal with your failures. And that is why you are unable to be the man you want to be. A man like Logan. And so once she says that to him, but also use her powers as a way to beat down on him, you can kind of tell that she actually hit him right in the heart. And he kind of realized that she is right. And so he just gives up and she leaves the room after beating down on him, but also making that statement as well. And the reason why I'm saying that, because you do have Jubilee go be the one the next following day to deliver food over to Sabretooth. And when she does, he tells Jubilee to tell Jean Grey, like, hey, listen, I'm going to tell her, like, she's way more stronger or better person than Logan ever was. That he had a good one. Like, Jean Grey should have been his girl. And if he did got her, he got the right one for him. And the book ends on that note. And I'm like, dang, it's a one-part story arc, but it's really good. It's really good. Anyways, guys, this is where we're going to end today's comic book video. So please leave me a like down below and subscribe. But guys, see y'all next time. Later.